Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Innovation Deciphered. I'm your host, Tim Fitch, and today I'm being joined by Chris Turner of CTO Lighting. So I hope you enjoy the latest episode. Hi, Chris, and welcome to the podcast. Can you just give us a quick background to you and your business?
Of course. Thank you for having us, Tim. So our business started 25 years ago. So me and my wife started it from our back bedroom.
This is CTO Lighting.
CTO Lighting, correct. Thank you. And we had a studio in the Old Kent Road where we'd make things up. And we made some lights and we took a little snapshot of them and we sent them to Habitat. And we got called in, we had a meeting with their buyer. He said he'd buy some, and we kind of forgot about it. And then about 3 months later, we got an envelope through the door and an order for lights from Habitat, some wall lights and some table lights. And we got an order for 1,500. And that, we didn't realise the quantities that Habitat would obviously need. And over a period of 6 months, we must have sold about 5,000 lights to Habitat. So that was fantastic. It got us going in a big way and very quickly.
So you went from 0 to 5,000 units
Exactly.
in
Yeah,
3 months.
in 3 months. So we obviously had a problem because we had to make them, and we'd never really made much past a sample before. So eventually I found a factory in Birmingham that would make them for us, and that's the factory that we now own. So some of the members that started with us were there until very recently. And the other great thing about it was, or the big decision we had to make at that time was, going forward, do we want to do our manufacturing in the UK, or do we want to do as most people did at the time, go out to China? So Chinese imports were starting to come in then, or they'd already come in, but we were in the modern sector, and it had been all traditional lighting previously. We decided that we loved our manufacturing. We loved going to see artisans in the UK, visiting them, seeing what they could do, bash bits of metal, bend things over our knee, work, feel what was going on. So we decided we'd manufacture in the UK, but we go up market. So we went from, say, selling to Habitat to selling to the Conran shop. After the Conran shop, we'd sell to interior designers. Those interior designers would get to bigger interior designers, and eventually we'd end up in the luxury sector. And now we sell internationally to interior designers around the world. And Claire and I always say that was the best decision that we ever made. We love what we do. We started the lighting business because the power of lighting, no one really understood it at that time, but you can go into a room, and we all kind of understand it now, and through dimming lights, through uplighters, through table lights, through down lights, through having different circuits, you can change the look of a room from a very functional room during the day for a very nice room for dinner to a TV room. So that's what we enjoy, and that's how we got started.
So I get the sense that your business is really design led.
Definitely. So Claire and I are industrial designers. So we, at the beginning, we just wanted a career and a job where we could design and make a living. And it's gone past that now, but it's all about design. Claire always says product is king. So you can have an average product and you can sell it and you can market it and you can and make money from it. But if you have a great product, the selling and the marketing and everything else is a lot easier. So that's what we love doing, and that's where we put our focus on that ethos and that design ethos.
So just run through me what a sort of a typical year looks for you in terms of the cycle through developing a new product to getting it to market.
Okay, so it's interesting because it's kind of changed. When we started and there were two of us, it was very easy, very flexible, very organic. It would be done at the kitchen table. It would be done at night over dinner. There were two of you. You could make decisions really quickly, and you could get it to market a lot quicker. Now we're a company of 30 people. It's a bit slower, but we are realizing actually that decision making needs to be really quick. So we will have a rolling program of creativity, call it R&D, call it innovation, call it creativity, and that just runs every day of the year, and it just keeps on going, and that heads up everything. And so that spurs ideas. From that, we will now launch, once we want a product to launch at a trade show, once a year. We might launch 3 or 4 products. So about 18 months before we launch that product, we should be thinking about that product. We'll have a brief. What part of our sector do we want to do? Wall light, table light, pendant light, bathroom light. What are we missing from our range? Once we've got that, we'll look up into this creativity zone, and we'll pull down our ideas and we'll fit them into our 18-month path. And then the designers will design for 3 to 6 months. Once they've got a great light, and only once they've got a great light, then the back end can start. And that back end's a bit more rigid. It's 12 months, it's prototyping, it's dealing with suppliers, it's getting a light ready. So we will now get a light ready to sell when we actually launch the product.
So that's that whole product development process. It takes what, 18 months for
yeah, typically 18 months. Sometimes during COVID you had longer, and so you could take longer. And sometimes you think, well, we're a bit behind, but I need to launch something in a year, and you can speed it up. It's quite flexible. We're still a small team.
So once someone's got some sort of artistic inspiration, what's the process from taking their sort of, perhaps it's a sketch or just an artistic idea,
Okay, so
ending up with a product you can actually turn on and get light?
Yeah, so I'll take, because it helps me think, but I'll take our best-selling pendant, which is our Cloudsley. It's a large pendant. It's our most expensive product, which is quite interesting. So we do very well in our sector with expensive pendants and expensive wall lights. The idea came from a cloud on a kind of daylight today, a bit of sun, a bit of cloud. We drew a sketch. From that sketch, then we had to find a way of making the kind of glass that we wanted. So we went out to our suppliers and found new suppliers. We worked with them, we experimented, we came up with a new type of fritted glass for it, very handmade, very organic. No 2 bits of glass are ever the same. Once we'd got that, and we'd got the right translucency and opaqueness and the right amount of light levels coming through it, not too harsh, not too soft. So this is ongoing for a few months.
Yes.
Once that was cracked, the rest of it was quite simple. You can quite easily make some metalwork to hang it from, make it look quite nice, and then you're away. And that would have been a 3 to 6 month project. And again, then you've stopped the creativity, you've got your first sample, stroke prototype, and from that it then kind of goes to the back end factory to do their 12-month work to get you into.
So once you've got a working prototype,
Mm.
is that on its own? Is it possible for the factory to go and make 1,000 of those, or do they have to do some further work to
yeah, there is further work. So during their 6 to 12 month process, they'll come back and say, look, we've tried to ramp up production. We know if we go to production on the Cloudsley that you've designed, we're going to have a problem with the glass breaking. The hole's too near the edge. Can we change it? Of course you can. We can't make as many as you'd like, as quickly, as cheaply as you want, because you've chosen a difficult piece of metalwork. So they come back and we change it. So it's an iteration, but it's you will get the same looking product at the end of the day.
So that that all sounds quite. Yeah, that's quite a clear sort of product development process. In terms of how you market, then, what's your route to market for these?
Okay, so we trade shows basically. We've started off doing trade shows on day one. We still find trade shows are our best route to market. We are selling lights ranging between retail price £500 to say £15,000. At that level, people want to see the product. So a trade show is the best way to do that. Once they know you and they trust you and they say, yeah, CTO do great quality, I love the artisan finish that they do, then the next order, the third order, the fourth order, they don't need to see it. But initially, we find our customers want to see our product. So we do Milan trade show. We've just come back from that, Euro Luci. We do that every 2 years. We do a interiors trade show in Paris in January once a year, and there's a London trade show, Decorex, we do once a year. And now we are nearly 25 years old. We've got a range of dealers around the world that have 3 or 4 of our lights in their showroom. So if you're in Amsterdam or Krakow, you can go and see our product locally. It makes it so much easier for our agents to sell our product when you can feel, touch. Yeah, massive difference.
Obviously I can see that. So in terms of the trade shows, you showcase your new products, or have you got a whole catalogue of products you've made over the last 25 years? Are they all retired, or
they're rolling? So as they drop off a sales level, then we renew, and we're getting a lot better now. We're getting a lot more commercial at renewing with better selling products. We have to. So no, a trade show, you'll generally have 1 or 2 of your best sellers and then 3 or 4 new stuff. People are always desperate to see new things, and we found that during COVID worked well for our industry, because a lot of those interior designers, who are generally small teams, are all working out, they can work from home, and their clients, everyone was at home thinking, I need my room doing up, I need some lights, I need some wallpaper, etc. So we worked, our business went very well during COVID. That no one had been out, no one had seen anything new, no one had talked to anyone. We were all, so as soon as those trade shows started happening again, people were desperate for newness, and we're still finding that. Although I think the route to market has changed a bit since COVID in our sector. Trade shows are still important, and I think the better ones will stay, but I think it's much more multi-channel now. We've launched products during COVID digitally, and it did work because that's all you could do, and no one could get out, so they had to buy your product from only seeing it online. But now there's a bit of a mix. I think you have to, you can't put all your eggs in the trade show basket. Yeah, there's a bit more digital involved.
And the people you sell to are interior designers typically?
Our core client, the people who buy our lights will be an interior designer, and they'll put them into high-end residential or hotels. And generally in the hotels, it's the bars, it's the restaurants, it's the public areas, it's the suites. It's not, we're not going to do a 300-room hotel. We're too expensive for that.
It's interesting what you said about the digital, because we had a lady on the podcast last year who's a handbag designer.
Oh, right.
And she launches hers digitally,
right,
with all the colour variations, and when the orders come in, then she gets them made.
Ah.
So, for instance, she gets 4 colours that she's designed. They look almost like photographs, but they don't exist.
No.
And when the people say, well, it's actually the blue one that's, then she gets a few hundred made in Italy.
Quickly.
Of that colour.
Yeah.
And the others she doesn't bother with, just says to people they're not available now.
Yeah. Look, I wish there was one easy route to market and we'd all do it. But everyone's grown up and found their own way of doing it, and that's as valid as our way. We've taken the route now that actually when we are at that trade show, and someone comes up to us and says, I love your new products, because we used to have them and it used to take, oh, you can't get them for 3 months. Now, yeah, we'll make that, we'll start making that tomorrow for you, and it's an 8-week lead time to middle of Europe. You can have it in 8 weeks. And that kind of, it's a bit like, fashion, it's all faster now, and people don't want to wait 3 months for a light. They've forgotten about it, they've moved on. So that's our way of doing it.
Yeah, Chris, one thing we haven't talked about yet is, of course, in the fashion sector, there's the big issues now around the circular economy and reducing waste, certainly in construction, another sector that we know a lot about. How are you seeing that affecting what you're doing?
We're lucky in that inherently, we're not in the fashion sector. Inherently in the design world, and we're at the high end luxury, our products will easily last 10 years. We've got hotel foyers where our lights, wooden and cotton shades, are in there for 20 years and need a bit of a refurb, but they're still going strong. And we've always built our lights from kind of noble materials, so brass, bronze, timber, silks, glass. And they're not too fashionable. So they're modern, but you can keep them for a long time without them looking out of place. And I think they're also expensive, and people buy our lights when they love them, because they are expensive, and it kind of engenders them wanting to keep it for longer. Having said that, we're all, since we went into COVID and we were starting our sustainability journey, got put on hold because we wanted to, keep the business going. But post COVID, there's been a kind of shift in people's attitude towards sustainability in the interior sector. So we're now carbon neutral, which at the beginning of COVID seemed a really long, difficult process. 2 years later, it was a very easy process. So we got on board with a consultant. We got spreadsheets to fill in. We took 3 months to fill some spreadsheets in from the staff, from the factory, from suppliers. And the consultants out there are making it quite easy. So that was quite easy. But it's the next step for us. The big step is going now towards net zero. And, the government said everyone's going to be net zero by 2050. So we're thinking that we'll aim for 2040, be ahead of the curve. So we're on that journey. And again, I think that's a daunting journey today, but as you go into it, it will become easier and easier. And as an example of that, if one of our lights gets delivered and it's damaged, we say, right, we'll pick it up, we'll get it back from you, wherever you are, in France or in North London or wherever. We'll get it back to the factory and we'll repair it and we send it back out. Or we'll send you a new one and we'll get that one back and repair it and tell it to someone else. And that works fine. But we haven't taken that step where we advertise that at the end of life cycle of a product. But we've tried getting products back from this hotel where the lights were there for 20 years. And we said, well, let's spruce them up for you and you can get another 10, 15 years out of them if you'd like. And actually, you'd think they'd jump at the chance, but no, it's hard. I'm badgering them and phoning them, and people aren't quite. I think in the commercial world, people are very busy, and they've not always got the time to do something like that. It's quicker for them to bin it and buy new. But that's the real. To get to net zero, we can't keep just binning stuff and recycling stuff. You've got to repair and reuse, and that's what our products are good enough and quality enough. We try and omit glues and use screws so you can take it apart and make it easier. But we're now waiting for that shift in the mentality of our clients to let us do that properly.
Is there any market for when a light has well with a particular client as you've described says well, we want to replace them, upgrade them, newer style.
Yeah.
But the light fitting that's there, is there a second-hand market?
There is, because actually I was in Pimlico Road and there was an antique shop there and it had 2 of our Deca wall lights in. And I went in, knocked on the door, and I was chatting to the guy and I said, oh, we're the manufacturer of those. And they looked spanking. They looked absolutely fantastic, virtually new. They still had all the wiring labels on, mint condition. And he said, oh, those come out of the suites at the Dorchester. So there is an inherent kind of that, we don't have to set up our own website of pre-loved CTO lights. We can do, but also we're lucky in that those antique shops inherently we could repair and send it out that way if we wanted rather than our website. But I've definitely there is. It's shown in fashion, isn't it? Fashion does lead the way over interiors. It's quicker. So yeah, it really, if you think what second-hand fashion has done in the past.
There's quite a lot of technology businesses set up to facilitate those kind of markets in fashion. Maybe there's an opportunity.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not. Sector. Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a Luddite at heart, if I'm honest. I like bashing things and hitting things and welding, but yeah, I can see it in the fashion industry. I'm not quite sure the interiors industry is big enough for that yet, but someone proved me wrong. Yeah.
Well, Chris, on that note, I'd like to thank you very much for appearing on this episode of Innovation Deciphered. And everyone, thanks for watching or listening, and see you on the next episode. Bye.